Oh, yeah. All right, this time you get to see that I'm not just a loner, and sometimes I ride bikes with people. Uh, I'm not really going to talk too much about the bike ride today, I don't think. I'll just go back to moderation on Nextdoor. I think it's pretty interesting. I follow a number of the debates that erupt locally here in Albuquerque and in the surrounding neighborhoods where I have access to the posts. And a lot of people are worried about censorship and getting suspended and content being removed. And I'm curious about that stuff. And so I've definitely on this site, well, not on YouTube, but on my site that I will link in the description, I post articles that try to be very rigorous in looking at what can I know from publicly available information about guidelines on Nextdoor. How do I not violate those guidelines? What does moderation look like on a practical level? Is it being used well? Who does moderation? Sometimes it's community moderators, sometimes it's Nextdoor, the company. They seem to also have automated systems in place that flag content. It's hard to know why sometimes you are violating or what policies you are violating. So I had two instances recently where when I went to Nextdoor and attempted to get in, once I was told you've been temporarily suspended. Click here to reread the guidelines on civility. If you can find my profile on Nextdoor, Nick space Hamill, Hamill, look at what I post. I'm not instigating. I'm not calling for violence. I sometimes make tongue-in-cheek jokes, but it's usually pretty clear, and I don't think they're evil. For example, someone said only crackheads ride bicycles, and I said, "Hey, I resemble that remark." I think that should be treated as a joke. That wasn't. I wasn't ever told that that was uh, offensive or uncivil. I didn't love the crackhead comment, and I don't like the idea that anyone riding a bike who's an adult is supposed to be suspicious. I think that's a negative stereotype. But people are free to have their opinions. So I was just trying to joke back. The original post was removed, and I think as a result of that, so was my response to that. Actually, it was a comment under a different post. So um, I was just replying to someone, and it seems like the parent reply as well as my response were removed. I don't know if that's moderation. That's not moderation on me. That's moderation on the person who posted the only the only adults riding bicycles are crackheads. So anyway, the reason this is top of mind right now is because when I went to log into Nextdoor, unfortunately, today on September 26th, I got a notice saying, "Hey buddy, you're suspended until, let's see, I'm going to actually just look at it right now. I'm suspended, I think, for 4 days. This has never happened to me before. I took a screenshot. I'm sure I'll post about it later on my blog. But it says, be respectful to your neighbors. If you have concerns about moderation, do not post about it in the main news feed. See our articles on moderation. Sign in again on September 30th. And I will. I'll wait. But, I've reached out to Nextdoor, the company, so we'll see what they have to say. Previously, I was told that it's not kosher to discuss Nextdoor moderation in the main news feed. And I didn't know that, but they did say that in their guidelines, so I stopped doing that and I created a new group. And it was all about trying to explore and understand Nextdoor moderation. And so I was posting content there, and no one had joined the group. I don't know if that's what Nextdoor is now um, seeing and why they are suspending me, or it could be someone who just doesn't like me for some reason. Maybe they have, as a community moderator, I don't know if they have that power to suspend. I've heard that they do not. So this seems more like something at the Nextdoor level. I think what it comes down to is Nextdoor doesn't want you to talk about moderation on Nextdoor. And they haven't told me that, though. The official response I got from customer service representatives, or maybe it was someone higher up, but from a Nextdoor employee, was that I can discuss this in a civil manner, but I should only do it in a private group. And that's perfectly fine. That's what I tried to comply with. So I'll wait for the response there. And if worse comes to worse, by the 30th, I will just, not post about moderation there, which is a shame because I really think Nextdoor is a very useful tool. I've met a number of good people there. I see a number of things that I think everybody sees, and it's hard to witness. You see a lot of fear, a lot of calls for violence, a lot of class warfare, a lot of people who are posting inappropriate information like pictures of someone and then saying this person's bad for various reasons. And, they might be, but we don't know. And I think that is not an environment, that's not the environment that I want to participate in. So I just tend to ignore those posts and try not to debate them directly. But I seem to have sparked the ire of someone inadvertently. So I guess I'll just need to continue my investigations and not cross-promote this to Nextdoor because I really don't want to get kicked off. I do use it to meet a lot of people, and not just because I'm stirring the pot and trying to talk about how moderation does and does not work. More so because I want to know how it works. It's actually a pretty powerful tool for interacting with neighbors and the community, and I want to make sure that I'm not abusing it. And we all see it. Everybody has their personal opinions and doesn't agree with something that someone else posts. I tend to just try and ignore that, and I'm trying to determine if Nextdoor officially as a company does not like what I'm doing, or if I have kind of instead annoyed a community member, which was not my goal. I would hope if it's a community member, they would maybe reach out instead and say, hey, I don't like what you're saying. Stop saying it for such and such a reason. Or maybe let's talk because it seems like if they were talking to me, that I'm misunderstanding or misrepresenting something and not being fair. I tend to be pretty civil, but I also am pretty persistent when I pursue information. So, a number of people grumble on Nextdoor about, oh, my content was moderated. It's because I'm a lefty or a righty, or choose your particular affiliation or reason for censorship. I don't think it's that simple. I think it's a lot trickier than that. And the trouble with Nextdoor is often that you just can't know, certainly not easily, why you were moderated or suspended in my case now, without extra work. I was told to be kind. Okay, I mean, I agree with that, and I would hope that my record shows a pretty kind level of interaction. And if it's not, if jokes, for example, like the one that I referenced earlier in this video, are not allowed, I will just have to do my best not to try and straddle that line of interacting with people and also somewhat mocking the fact that they are, I think, being disrespectful and greatly stereotyping members of the community. I ride my bike a lot, but I don't post that people who drive cars are insensitive jerks. People who ride bikes, sometimes they do insensitive things and make mistakes. People who drive cars, the same. The consequences can be quite a bit different. It's a conversation that I think is able to be had in a civil way, even if we don't necessarily all agree. And so I don't understand. I'm hoping to hear back to know what can I do differently so that I'm not kicked off. I would like to continue talking about moderation on Nextdoor. I think a lot of us would benefit from that. I think the lack of ability to discuss moderation and how it's enforced and what the different levels are, and really to demystify it. I think that adds to a number of the conspiracies that are often promoted in terms of it's a left wing agenda, it's a right wing agenda, it's pick yeah, once again, pick whatever side you want to play victim on. Uh, what I've seen, I'm a pretty lefty kind of guy. Um, I'm getting kicked off, and I'm not calling anyone bad names. I'm not advocating for violence. I am making potentially jokes that people don't like. I think in the scheme of things, though, they're 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 pretty soft. But really, my goal is not to upset people. I would rather not interact with someone than upset them. I think I have one viewer of this video who will probably not agree with that statement. Everybody's got their own personality flaws or traits or whatever you want to call it. My persistence can be pretty annoying to some people, and the fact that I sometimes will push on topics that probably it's just easier if you just don't say anything. I look a lot into housing. I look into issues of poverty. I look into issues of drug abuse. I look into who is in our neighborhood and how do we address various socioeconomic issues. That pushes a lot of buttons, and it strikes a lot of challenging conversations. And I think those conversations can be productive in person. I've seen very few of those become productive in the comments section on Nextdoor, and I think that is not something to be solved. I think it's more of something to be recognized. It's part of the reason that I try not to participate with emotional arguments there, and I try and look at facts. And I'm still emotional, though. I realize that sometimes, despite what I say my effort is, I behave a little bit differently. So it's important to have that self-reflection and what am I doing wrong? What could I do better? Perhaps this little temporary suspension will result in an explanation that makes sense, and I'll be able to be a better participant. I hope I do get some information. I think it would be useful. But if it comes down to don't discuss moderation on Nextdoor, again, I won't do that. But that's that would be a disappointment. I think that would really be a failing from Nextdoor. And they're not a monolith, much like any tech company. I've, for example, submitted software to the Apple Store and to Android, or to the Google Store, the Play Store. And sometimes my app gets turned down or rejected from one of the reviewers, and then I barely make a change and just ask them to reevaluate, and the next reviewer who comes on has a different opinion. So, companies aren't monoliths. They're composed of people, individual people, and just like on Nextdoor, the moderators may or may not be following the guidelines. Even employees may or may not be following the guidelines at Nextdoor. So I am hoping to participate in good faith and to be a contributing member to the community. Hopefully everyone else is too. That's kind of my goal, to try and find people who share that and connect with them. And I found some of them through Nextdoor. So I'm a little disappointed that now, there's a little community cleanup that's going to happen on Saturday, and I can't post to Nextdoor until Saturday, so I won't be able to easily see what questions people are asking or what kind of updates need to go there. So, I'll figure out a way. I'll work with the neighborhood association. People will still show up. I'll still pick up trash. I'll still meet people. But it's interesting. I've used Nextdoor quite passively for 5 years or so, ever since I moved into my home. And if you're not posting, then there's really no moderation to be done to you. You can see the effects of moderation at times when posts come and then disappear abruptly, but over the past, let's say, 6 months, I've been posting more and more, and I, I, I struggle to see how I am not acting in accordance with the guidelines. And the one time I was told, again recently, how I wasn't, I was told how to come into compliance by creating a private group, and I did. Well, it's a group that anyone can join, but it's a separate group. And so, well, that's it for this video, and I guess that's it for me on Nextdoor until the 30th. Good luck out there, and be nice to people. I'll try too.